everyone. Welcome to Listen to Autism. Here is my friend Dr. Abraham Villarenas.
Hello.
I was wondering to ask you, is there a difference between doctor and PhD?
No, it's, well, usually depending on the country, United Kingdom, they tend to say doctor, a PhD as well. America, some places they say first the name and then PhD. The thing is, you can be a doctor and have any other kind of title. No, so a PhD is one of them. For example, in education, you have also EDD. I think
Mhm.
is the name, which is more practice based. So is you can be PhD or there are different kind of titles, but doctor and PhD is the same.
Okay, so Listen to Autism is not as regular as Escuchando el Autismo or Spanish version, but for our friends of Listen to Autism, they doesn't know where you are right now. So why don't you tell us a little about that?
So I'm in Mexico now. I came a few weeks ago, and it's good. I came just to support an amazing little school in Huichapan, which is where you live. My big friend Oscar lives, and it was amazing. I'm very surprised because I didn't know that so many people follow us and follow me in social media. So I went. I came for one congress, and I don't know how many events and congresses I have in the next few weeks, plus one I did. I have like six, seven, 5 dates or something like that so far. And it is amazing. It is amazing how welcoming people are here in Mexico. Food is, I don't know if people or food, if I had to choose, but kind of the same. Well, I would choose food with people. That's perfect. Amazing. Very happy. Very happy.
Great. So today we're going to talk about coaching, and we will see what is important to know about coaching when we talk about autism and the relation of education with coaching. Some topics that are not, I think, are not as famous as other topics that we have talked about in this podcast. And we're going to have a authentic force of nature, as she has been described on LinkedIn. And I'm glad to welcome a friend, Quinn Simpson. Hi, Quinn.
Hi. I love the clap. I'll take a clap.
Then we put the proper ones, proper effect. Woo, and
Yeah,
it will be even
we have
better.
some effects after that.
Yeah.
So, Quinn, please tell us some about yourself. Introduce yourself, please.
Well, first, I want to say thank you for the opportunity to be able to speak to a community that clearly follows you to learn more about autism and probably neurodivergent thinking in general, because I think that we definitely now live in a world where we recognize that people have different neurotypes or people think differently. And I think we've always known that, but we're talking about it more and we have more language for it. So I would put myself in that category. I'd say that since I was as young as about 7 years old, I was on the playground very conscious that I was different from other children and that I learned differently, I socialized differently, and I couldn't really make sense of the world and my place in it. And that kind of carried on until I was about 11. And I at that point was like, this is not working for me. I'm not making very many friends, and what was not working for me was actually trying to be like other people, because I figured if I was different, I needed to be more like them to be accepted. But that was the opposite. As soon as I started actually being myself and my, weird, wacky, silly, oh, that's Quinn self, finally people loved me. And I learned coaching skills almost in honor of that 7-year-old girl. I learned coaching skills so that I could be able to give them to young people who, not to give them the skills necessarily at first, but to be able to coach them through whatever they were going through, like I had been going through. And now what I do is train teachers to do that for their students so that we can recognize that we are all different. We gravitate towards different metaphors. We get excited about different things in the world. And I want everyone to be able to have conversations and feel understood and loved.
That's good.
Amazing. I what and why did you create your project, your company, Gradyin, and why you think is important to have a company like Gradyin?
Mackenzie and I started Graydon from the experience that we had had in school, and hers was a public education that she didn't feel that connected to, but she worked really hard and she got through it, and it was fine. And I had struggled all the way through school, socially and academically, but I loved it. Even though it was tough, I loved it because I had amazing teachers and I was in really, really incredible schools. Both the elementary school was a private school, and so was my secondary school. And they were incredible places where my parents were able to help me get the help I needed, even though I did poorly. Like, my results did not show that I should have liked school. But I loved it because I didn't feel like a number. I felt a part of something. And I was kind of coming from, I want people to have experience education as I did. And Mackenzie was coming from, I don't want people to experience what I experienced. And we believed the relationship that would make all the difference in a school was the teacher and student relationship. That if we brought coaching into that specific dynamic, everything would change. Little did we know that schools are much more complex than that. And actually the relationships that needed that growth and that skill set was also teacher to teacher, teacher to leaders, and then teachers to parents outside of the school. Like, all different elements of the school community actually needed the support too.
That's so good. I like something you said, no, that you, sometimes I look like that, and it's the way I focus. Like sometimes if I look at somebody, is well. So no, but I like the way you said about your pedagogy, and it's your coaching, your course, and everything that is to honor that 7 years old girl, and I think it's good when somebody finds purpose of living or creating something, based on experiences. I think is the only way to make something very, very big. Same as the pedagogy I created. So, is that coming from experiences and trying to improve something. And I always say here that kind of there are two people in our life that we have to explain everything we do, no, and they have two people that we really, it's kind of, we really have to make them proud of ourselves, no. It's our me, 8 years old me, and 80 years old me, no. And if they both are happy with and proud with the people we are, then our life is amazing. So I really like the everything that comes from experiences and thinking of our little ones.
I love that. And the 80-year-old self is really important because I think a lot about Maria Montessori,
Yeah.
and how I don't think that her goal was that in 2024 we would still think of Montessori as alternative.
Yeah.
Like, we'd be like, oh, that's an alternative school. Like, I don't think that was her vision.
No.
And I think when I think about myself as an 80-year-old person, I want to look back saying, I dedicated my life to education. Like, that's,
Yeah.
I don't really have any other dream of what I would say other than, like, I worked as hard as I could to bring as much energy and love to the system, and
And
that I
yeah,
affected change.
yeah, and be proud of what you've done, and if you change, if you see something on somebody, if they start thinking and seeing things out of the box, thinking out of the box is the way. It's just something very, very, very good. I was going to say something semi service, and I forgot. Something related to I can't remember now, but it will come. It will come. Don't worry.
I'll give you a second, don't worry. So funny you talk about Montessori because I think her work and her history is very interesting and very important. But the funny thing is that she started doing something for poor kids, and we, as a society, managed to make it something really expensive and unreachable for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I know what I was going to say. What I'm saying is sometimes, I had a conversation also the other day with an amazing, very talented teacher, and people get frustrated. Then they tend to say, it is crazy that 2024 we are still we still have to fight for the rights of autistic people, or we still need to fight for every children in the world to be educated towards their likes, motivation, the way they think, their learning styles, and everything. And I say, well, but uh, we are looking into improving their lives towards 2034. No, if we don't start now, if we don't carry on now, if we don't push now, maybe we are at the same point in 2034. No, so we know where we are at, and it's very important that we create these spaces, these courses, these new ways of thinking, just to and teaching, just to improve the future.
Mhm.
I think, for example, in your history that you were sharing, Gwen, you got the luck to have great people as a teachers. Maybe they didn't have the tools that you are teaching teachers now, but they have the intention, the feeling, the passion, the personality. Maybe because of their mothers, maybe because of their families, maybe because their own teachers. And Mackenzie didn't have that luck. So, how you think coaching can help people to find themselves being better persons or have better tools? Because in the end, I think, and talk us, maybe it would be better if at first you tell us about how you understand coaching. Because for a lot of people, when you think about coaching, you think about sports and these kind of things. I already learned that's not the case. But for the audience, please explain a little about what is coaching for you.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think I would love to, yeah, to broaden our understanding of coaching and then respond to one thing you mentioned there probably first, which is I actually think some of my teachers were natural coaches.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's what I was noticing in them as working for me. So I could categorize when I was 7 and then as easily at 16 as well. That teacher knows how to deal with me and that teacher doesn't. And the difference between the two of them was natural coaching skills, doesn't know how to coach and just never learn those skills. And so what I mean by that is someone with natural coaching skills listens in order to be able to help the person think for themselves, that truly believes that the person in front of them is capable and whole and holds all the answers, and that their job, their role as the person helping is to ask, not tell. Like these teachers were able to create learning environments where I felt like I could explore and fail and figure it out, and that I wasn't wrong or being punished if I didn't get it right away. They were the type of teachers that you would say, "Oh, I want to try that." And then they would say, "Okay, try it." And then I'd say, "Well, you haven't shown me how to do it." And they're like, "See what happens." And then I would go to them, "Well, oh, I tried it like this and this is what happened." And then they would get me to think again, instead of telling me what to do, setting targets for me, giving me advice, which never worked. And so when we think about coaching, if you imagine all the ways of helping a human being on a spectrum of help, coaching is the most non-directive way of helping someone. It is the least directive. And on the other side is consulting, advice giving, telling, and it can be really helpful. Like it's not to say that you don't hire consultants or you should never have someone give you their opinion or their feedback or their thoughts from their expert space to give you that advice. It's just that that form of help is one type. And we have all these other forms. And if we as humans don't know how to, excuse me, if I just had hit the mic, if we don't know how to do all of them, then our ability to help is this long versus this long. And I think with education that if every teacher was able to coach, there are hundreds of thousands of moments in time that they could use that skill set in their career. And if they're not able to do it, then they're missing all those opportunities.
It's about identifying teaching opportunities. Every time I train teachers, every time I train parents, I always ask them, you don't need to sit down. Well, I had a friend that told me, oh, but my son never is never on a table and he doesn't do all his all worksheets and blah 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 blah. Do you think he's got a problem? I said, well, if he did it, if he wasn't on a table, on a chair 8 hours a day, doing worksheet, then come to ask me, and not trying to stand up, not trying to do any other thing. They just come and talk to me because he has he would have a problem.
Mm.
You know, what I'm trying to say is, I always say, to me, the outstanding lesson is when the teacher is able to go to a corner, don't even interact, don't even talk to anybody, and learning is happening. People still, children or students are exploring, are teaching each other, interacting, are that's to me a proper understanding lesson. And it's difficult to get. The only way to get is, as you say, coaching them and always working towards their likes, motivation, letting them to explore. And within that moment, within that environment, we just need to, to throw little, we say in Spain, to throw little stones of knowledge,
Mm.
to try to make them think and help them to think in a different way. No, like maths. You go to the you go to the street and you're walking, you're talking, and then you see plates, car plates, and there is maths. No, let's read the numbers. There is to me, is a huge ability or skill, being able to identify teaching opportunities. Not every teacher are able to do it, and it's something you are not trained about when you are at the university. It's just more kind of the kind of knowledge we always kind of teaching, that the traditional teaching. No.
And I think that's changing. I think that there have been a lot of advances. I think there are lots of teachers that teach like that or want to teach like
Yeah.
that. And so that's kind of one setting, right? Is the classroom is what you're talking about. And I do think that if a teacher sets the context for learning, the learning will happen, right? Like you're
Yeah.
saying. I also think that there's a lot of other touch points in a school, and there's a lot of initiatives that come into a school that could really make a difference. And if you even just take your training, if you imagine training all the teachers in neurodiversity and how do we be flexible with how we work with neurodiverse thinkers, okay, so that comes into a school. But if you don't have a strong culture or foundation or bedrock of strength, if you will, for all of that good stuff to come in, like mindfulness education and well-being curriculums and project-based learning and restorative justice, and we have all these things that are so amazing that schools, AI, right, in education, like new technologies as they're coming. And if you don't have like a strong pelvic floor, for example, for all the organs to live on, then all the organs are not going to function with the pelvic
Yeah.
floor being weak. So we have to strengthen that. We have to strengthen the people, like the,
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
people power.
Yeah, totally agree. No, and then is when people, you get this kind of people, as you say, is when you can do many things. And something I'm learning a lot here. Uh, i- because I come from, I've been teaching always. Well, I've been in Spain, but mainly in United Kingdom. And there's lots of training. I've seen different cultures. In different schools, as you say, some very very strong foundation. Some of them is more difficult you to put in place different practices, because, as you say, it's very weak team, or very, you have to work on teachers, obviously. There's something I saw here. It's like, there are few autistic kids, and the culture, they have such a good team. It's a small team, but even if they were not very knowledgeable, if I'm doing lots of training with them, the atmosphere they created for the kids is just amazing. And then is when the understanding happened. The first thing, when I came here, they introduced me to a kid. It was the rest of the students, neurotypical students. They told me, but this is X, no, James, no, let's say a random name. And but he covers his ears, and he communicates, and he said, but it's the way he communicates.
Mm.
And we are talking about 3, 4, and 5 years old children. And this is only because they have such a strong team, such a strong foundation, and then we will learn how to deal with certain behaviors, with certain communication. And I totally agree with what you say. When you have that, people that wants to learn, people that they are very very strong, very talented, and even they want to communicate with parents very open, is when you can do all these things and put in place different practices.
Mm.
So, Quinn, if coaching is such an important tool to develop teachers, develop students, develop human relationships, and empower people, what you think is that is not part of this incessant growing of a teacher, the education system of a teachers, and what do we need to do to make them see that this is something that should be essential for teachers to learn as a tool, not only as a tool to relate to their students, but also to their peers.
I think there's a collective consciousness shift that's been occurring in the last decade where we have all been able to recognize that that logical linear thinking brain is very useful and it needs the emotional part too. And I look back at this moment in time in 2013 where a teacher stood up while I was giving a talk and I talked about the start with heart model. And I talked about how you start with heart and then you move towards head and then you move towards step. And he stood up and he said, I fundamentally disagree with everything you just said. I was like, cool, that's great. What exactly do you disagree with? And he said it was that surely it was the head before the heart. And yeah, and that was where he was coming from. And I think that there are a lot of people today that lean into that logical, linear, rational self. They really believe in the rational part of the brain and also in the rational thinking, like the rational thinking. And I think that a lot of our programs for many forms of help have that more rational structure. Like, here's the structure of a conversation. Here's a list of questions that you ask. Here's the formula for what you should do in this scenario. I remember something in schools that was called protocols. And in English, a protocol is like a step-by-step process. And to me, anything that's human can't be a protocol. They don't go together. Humans are way too complex for that. There's no way on planet Earth that every single human could respond the exact same way to every single protocol. So surely we need a process that is more human. And so I think that we're moving that direction, but for so long we've leaned into a more logical system. And I think we're recognizing that logic isn't everything and that evidence is great. And also we need to focus on the human being that's right in front of us. And we need a structure that will allow us to do that.
The problem, I think, with there's a big thing as well with the way we create knowledge, or the way we understand now the world per se. When the homeschool program we've got, so first week is always just to come back now from holidays in summer, lots of games, lots of activities. But the second week before we start with the proper academic or more educational pathway, we talk about philosophy. The reason why is sometimes humankind, humans at the like centuries ago, they were not scientific. They were philosophers. So they used to, even if we think about Leonardo da Vinci era, Leonardo da Vinci, botanic, architecture, sculpture, doctor, everything, like there were people that they used to ask themselves questions and research about them, investigate about them. And at some point, humans, I don't know why the reason, we just split the knowledge. No, you are, you are a surgeon, you are a doctor in this, you are, so I have the impression that, this Prussian educational style is more like that. Subjects, but then where are the questions? What are the questions students ask themselves? We every single day, we start our lesson asking the students, what do you want to learn today? They put it in the chat. And the last Pomodoro we do Pomodoros, 25 minutes focused knowledge, focused learning. The last one is for us to answer the questions or for themselves to look for and research, and we guide them on how to research the question. There's not a stupid question. It's sometimes now what? It's not time to ask that. When they are kids, when they are very young, oh, later, oh, that, don't say silly things. Come, there is not a silly question. The only stupid question is the one you never ask. I always say that to my students. And it's very successful, just asking them, because then we play with intrinsic motivation. They are motivated the whole day because they know that at the end they're gonna learn what they really want to learn, and then it gives us we get to know them. So we have to teach maths, and we know the biggest interest of one of our students are cars. I'm gonna use that to teach him maths, no, or teach her maths. And I think it is important, very important, having this in mind. Like, we can, and it's good. You can learn. You can be, I don't know. You can be a physician, but still love playing the guitar and learn how to play the guitar. No, and is something I don't like from traditional educational system.
Oscar, I actually have a question for you.
Oh, okay, go ahead, please.
Well, I mean, if you're open to it, I think you obviously took our foundational course live online, and then you were there on day one when I was in Mexico, and you saw some of the educators learning and some of the students too. What do you think is the spark of it? Like, what is so meaningful to you about it? What excited you?
Oh yeah, for sure. I was just going to talk about that, but I want to go around a little.
Okay.
For a start, I want to say that we have this idea when we talk about heart that we are talking about something that is here, and we forget that emotions, fear, feelings, everything is here also. So when we talk about the logic, and we say we gotta be logical, we can be emotional. We have to have hold of our emotions to be logical. That's just a lie. If you have your emotions in trouble, your mind can be logical. It's a step by step. And then we now went to a different model that we separate the brain. If you are left brain, you are creative, emotional, and if right brain, you are mathematical, or is the other way around? I never remember. But that we think that the brain is divided, and recent studies show that it's not. All is connected, and when you are thinking creatively, let's say music, yes, maybe one part of the brain is more active, but the other is active too. So that's what I found really fascinating about the model that starts with the heart, because yes, we want. I used to work in a company that was really against mistakes, against really strong character company, for say in some way, that it doesn't matter what happened to the person in his house or in his life, they have to produce, and that's not the way humans are. And I don't, and I'm taking it to the school. It's the same. If a kid is not comfortable, is not happy, is not feel love and feel safe in the place they are supposed to learn, how are they going to learn? And I think that is this spark that you were talking about, and that's what I saw when we feel free to talk about emotions, and we recognize that they are essential to the progress of everything in our lives. That I think is one of the biggest measures I took from the course, is that it's okay if you are not okay, and if you're okay if you need to talk about something that you are not feeling okay, and it's okay if that is the biggest stone that is not letting you move. But I think that's what I see in the course, that sometimes this society tends to make us afraid to feel bad, to feel sad, to feel sorry, and to be ignorant and to ask questions, as you were saying, Abraham. So combining those two things, imagine you can feel emotions and you can feel uncomfortable and you can express your emotions. Also, you can make questions because you're ignorant. If you're ignorant, the people around you is gonna make fun of you, and this is it's actually the place in where a lot of kids learn in this country at least. And it's not only that, it's the place in where a lot of grown-ups work. You can express emotions, you can go to the work and feel bad and feel sad and have a bad day, and you can ask something, because if you ask it, maybe you are not fully capable of doing the job and you are going to lose it. So that's, I think, That's the spark. Start recognizing that we are emotional. We can cough, for example. And
I'm trying not to.
don't worry, don't worry. And when we start with that and we make sure that we have that foundation, we can move from different things. And then we can start with the logical and the learning process and everything else.
Apologies for my coughing.
Don't worry. You need to go to get some water or something.
I have water here. It's like, when you have like a little tickle. It's
Yes.
a little tickle right here. It's fine.
I think the problem with emotions sometimes, emotions are pure chemics. And most of the emotions they last 2-3 minutes, 4 minutes maximum, depending on the body. It's a bit difficult, different with some neurodivergent people, depending on the process and how the chemics works as well. But and then the thing is what we do with them, because they disappear. Then it's a construct, social construct, or our background, how interacts with that feeling. I always talk about the importance of holding the emotion by the hand, and work with the emotion, understand each other, and then let it go or keep it there, depending on how you feel. But it's the most important part, in my opinion, when training teams.
I will say that yes, the emotions have like a time limit, like a time clock, but the feeling can stay. For example, it's not the same the fear that you live for a moment, but feeling afraid, that can last. Insecurity, that can last. I mean, maybe the moment you feel the fear, that emotion, that chemistry reaction you're talking about, maybe lasts for X minutes. But if you're insecure, if you're in a place as a kid, for example, where you don't feel secure, that feeling renews, It's not 3-4 minutes.
Yeah, but it's you have to work on those feelings, not in the emotion per se. Being upset, being happy is just a moment. It happened. You cannot even control it sometimes, unless you control fear and and you are scared of something. But the pure fairness is where you can act, and how you deal with that is accepting the other part, and how to deal with that. It's very important, as you say, for kids. Creating the right environment as well, and working with parents, blah blah blah. But I'm talking about the way the pure chemic part of it.
Yes, agree. When you are able to talk, I would like.
Yeah, I was trying to carry on with conversation just to hold.
Yes,
Let's put another applause here. Woo!
yes. Take a minute. Take a minute.
It's wild what's going on in my throat.
Yes. Maybe it's a reaction or something. Are you okay?
Yeah, I think I'm okay. I don't really know how it's going to go away though, but I'm gonna have to work through it. Maybe if I talk for a minute, it'll move. It'll get through.
Yeah.
The feeling will go through my body. I was going to share that one of my favorite meditation techniques that is always, oh my God, sorry.
No.
One of my most favorite meditation techniques is to identify thoughts and feelings. And the people who started Headspace, Andy Puttycombe and Rich Pearson, I knew them in London as they were starting Headspace. And one of the things that I really loved about their take on introducing mindfulness into people's lives was that they were, saying like, just take 10 minutes or take 20 minutes of a day. And that's it. No questions asked, just take 10 or 20 or 30. And in the taking 10, there were different techniques. And the oh, that's a thought. Oh, that's a feeling. Thought, feeling, like noting. Have you seen that technique? Yeah. That just, to me, that's so potent, right? And so that kind of a technique, how do we introduce that into someone's life in a way that doesn't feel like, you're really not doing well at school right now, you're failing all your subjects, and you really should start meditating. Here's a technique you should try. Like, that's not going to be the approach that's going to help that person to try the technique. So my question is always, with all the great techniques in the world, with all the ways that we can understand, let's say, the research on emotions and how to process emotions. And, do we hold it like a fist and then let it go and all these things? Like, how do we help people, or young people specifically, find those versus giving it to them, right? How do we help them figure out the strategy that's going to work for them on their own than giving them learning strategies? And yeah, sure, like show them the bank, give them the ways of learning about it and figuring it out. But to say that what learning strategy will work for them, it's absurd. And exams were my favorite time of year. And I told all my teachers that every single year. I said, oh, I love exams. I don't have to go to class and I can actually learn because I can teach myself. And nowhere did my teachers say, well, during exams, if you thrive so much and you get that time to teach yourself, what if we gave you time during the year to teach yourself? That was never an option or an idea when I was telling them what worked for me, and they didn't help me make that part of what was possible. So I don't know, there's something here about like agency and offering these strategies and finding a way to give it to young people and also adults. Let's be honest here. Like there's lots of, 45, 50, 60-year-old people that don't know how they learn and need strategies, but don't want to be told strategies.
Oof. I I really like what you talk about giving people option strategies, but at the same time giving them freedom. It's,
Mm-hmm. It's a nice way to put it.
it's a nice way to put it. Yeah, but I want to ask you to get a little bit on topic. It's hard for me because I think coaching, especially as the way you teach it, and this pedagogy that Abraham has created, are for everyone. No, but to stay on topic, let's talk about neurodivergent people. How you think coaching can be a tool for neurodivergent people, maybe as they are themselves, or maybe for teachers that work with neurodivergent people?
I think that the skill set of coaching really, really prides itself in looking at the person as though they're capable and whole. They're not broken. There's nothing wrong with them. And they have all the answers. And I think that we have a perspective about conditions and disabilities, which means that person in front of us lacks something or can't do something or struggles with something. And for every challenge that someone has, they have a strength. And so I think that it's about someone coming to you as though you're a blank slate and coaching you from that very moment, meeting someone truly where they are and being able to say, what's here right now? And what do you want to do with it? And how will that make you feel? And how can I help you on that journey? And what's next? And it not be like, well, what if you were to, or, oh, in this school, we like adding in all the other stuff. What if we could really give someone that time and space to feel like no matter what they say, they're going to be loved and accepted and understood and not judged and evaluated. And so I think that's from like coachy to neurodivergent thinker. I think from a neurodivergent thinker within their mind and body, it will be different for everyone. So there's, I can't say this is going to work for everyone, but I know for myself, my self-talk is awesome. And my self-talk is awesome because it's coach-like. And so when I am struggling with something, I ask myself really useful questions to help navigate through that and or allow myself to explore my own thinking in that moment. There isn't a lot of, why did you do that? And who do you think you are? And what's wrong with you, Quinn? That doesn't exist in my brain. Instead, it's like, oh, what's happening right now? What do you want? Like, it's just good, loving heart, head, and step questions. And that they start with what and how, and they help me think. They don't push me down or block me out. They push me forward.
What do you think, Abraham? How do you see these points that Quinn is talking about relating to pedagogy?
Uh, I think it's very very important, helping a student how to, all these skills, how to regulate interpersonal, intrapersonal skills. These are the skills that we almost never talk. We focus a lot. We focus, it's not a lot. We focus way too much on curriculum, on learning, knowledge, and nowadays we don't need it. So I'm still coming from encyclopedias, Larousse encyclopedia, or now we can do some publicity because it's already not in use, so it's good. But my mom used to spend every 2 3 years crazy amount of money on having these amazing books at home that we almost never use. Yeah, sometimes, but we used to have to go to the library. We used to. Nowadays we don't need to. Memoristic knowledge is not needed anymore. Apart from, okay, I understand now. For example, I'm doing a master in neuropsychology, and then another one in clinical psychologist in United Kingdom. And I understand that for the neuropsychology part, one, you have to memorize certain nouns and certain things. We're talking about medicine. We're talking, but it is very curious that even nowadays you go to the GP in the UK and they have a computer there and they look for certain symptoms and they tell you certain things. So you can even do everything online nowadays, almost everything. So I think it is so important to work more on those skills that are going to help them to manage their anxiety, to manage their grown emotion, because there are many studies that talk about grown emotions, being even more addictive that good one. So that is why it's so difficult sometimes to overcome a depression. That is why. So if we give all this foundation, uh, good foundation to students, where they learn. I still have some teachers that tell me no, but they have to get used to. I forgot the word. To when you have trauma, when you are very frustrated, they have to get used to frustration. And I said no, no, they have to. We have to make sure that they've got a good foundation. So whenever in their life they are frustrated, they have something to deal with that
Yes.
frustration. No? They have the right tools to deal with that frustration. No, okay, I'm frustrated, I cannot do that, but I know that doing that other thing, I feel very good and very happy. Let's do it. Where if we push them to get used to frustration, but they're gonna think life is like that, no, and they're not gonna have the right tools. So I think it is so important that we work on those skills from the beginning. All the educational, our program, homeschool program based on the pedagogy, mainly is about that, and the one I'm putting in place in this school is sort of the same. It is good, but we're gonna learn knowledge through different transversal ways, no? But every student they must have their individual learning plan where we're gonna work. We're gonna identify these key points in every student, no matter. It doesn't matter. It really matter the label, no? For example, you sometimes there are neurodivergent kids here, for example, at the school or whenever, that they have more emotional needs or more interpersonal relationship needs than the autistic kids per se. So it is important that every student are guided. I don't like even talking about teaching. Is it just guided
Guidance.
towards learning all those skills and embed those skills within the curriculum.
Thanks for going to that point, because I think that is one of the most important things. Why are we so worried about kids learning how to write when they are 4 or 5 years old, instead of learning how to deal with emotions, feelings, learning how to relate with others respectfully and other things? And we want them to learn at 6 years old to be seated for 4, 5, 6 hours and studying and mathematics. And don't get me wrong, I love science. I think it's very important that we teach science to young people. But why don't we invest more time in kids having emotional tools and emotional learning and other things? Go
I'm
ahead. Go
gonna
ahead.
answer that with myself now. Sorry, but my point here is why not? What I'm saying is, you were talking about writing. The problem with writing is not why are we teaching them how to write, which is super important. Why are we teaching them how to talk?
Of
So
course.
there are many studies that talks or shows that importance of reading and writing and mathematical thinking, in connections within left, right hemisphere, and their, plasticity when they are kids. It is so important. It's when they are more. So writing is very good. Now, my point is, why don't we teaching writing the way they want to learn? That is my point with everything they do. Writing, why on a chair? Why on a worksheet? We know that, even playing, let's teach them through sports, passing the ball, catching the ball, passing it to the right. We're talking about laterality. We're talking about many skills they're gonna use. And then writing these things. Why don't we teach them painting on the wall? Why don't we do? My point here is, why don't we teach them the way they want to learn? Which is the main part of it, and according to the development of their brain. Is the point you made with being on a chair, 8 hours? It is impossible. The brain of a 6 years old, eight, is not ready. But if you go to teenagerhood, why do we make them be at the school at 8 a.m. until, or the high school until 4 a.m.? Teenager, they are developing all these hormones, the body, they need to sleep more. It is the way it is. It's not that they are lazy, no. Their body are changing, no? So why don't we consider all those things that we know by heart, and teach them the way they want to learn?
I agree with that, but the point I was trying to make is that, yes, of course, neuroplasticity and learning in the early stages is good. But for example, a parent sometimes will be more worried about if the kid is already learning to write than if he's emotionally stable and he's having good relationship with in the school, And I think that
Because
they're equally
still
important.
I was having a conversation with a huge activist before, autistic activist, and we were at the same point. Still nowadays, we many people around the world is, a very adult centered way of teaching and way of thinking. Is sometimes, okay, they go to the school, they learn those skills because at home I teach them how to love, I teach them how to be happy, I teach them, you know what I mean? They think that naturally we learn it. And then many adult people, and then we tend to be very using very behaviorist approaches in many ways. So that is why school is still seen as the way to learn academically, the way to learn how to, they're gonna teach it. And it is the huge problem. We don't give worth to real skills they're gonna need in the future. You can be the best academic, but if you don't know how to deal with a team, you might not be able to have a very productive or very successful academic life.
What's your take on this, Quinn? What do you think of the balance between teaching more emotional tools or getting more emotional skills with the learning process of the traditional school, to say it some way?
I have a 5-year-old who, if there was one thing that he needs to be given, it's emotional regulation tools. And if his school could say, hey, we're doing that with him, I would be the most delighted.
Yeah.
And I don't think that they're not doing it, but I don't think they're doing it as consciously and intentionally as they could.
As a part of the plan.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit like, they're going to go in Canada here, like on a canoe trip. And from taking the canoe trip, they're going to learn confidence. And for me, that's not true. It's just, could we learn about what confidence means? Could we learn about competence within confidence? Can we learn about all of these, like the language pieces and strategies, and then go out in the wilderness and more consciously and intentionally learn something than the learning being a byproduct? I think there's a lot of byproducts at school. Like, if we learn this, they'll also learn this at the same time. But I kind of think that sometimes we lean into one and then the other is just like, hopefully this happens. And we don't actually like have a metric for it.
Yes.
And therefore we don't know if it worked or it didn't work. And we're just like, oh, but we have the debating club. And it's like, okay, good. And where did the students learn how to talk? Like I didn't learn how to speak publicly and hold my own voice until I became a leader in my school. And that was about the time when I was about to leave. But I did learn it in drama. So I had this learning process in drama, and then I had this like actual teaching of it when I was 18, and I've never had to like learn it again. But many people don't learn drama, or they dropped any sort of drama or improv work at a very young age. So those people don't get access to any of that. And then what if they don't become a leader in their school? They're not going to get trained in how to speak in an assembly hall and how to speak with confidence and pride. And not everyone needs to do that every single day, but I kind of like to think like there's nothing that either of you could ask me about and put me on a stage to talk about that would scare me. Because even if I didn't really know the whole history of mac and cheese, I would still find a way to talk about mac and cheese in this amazing way that would be like an imaginative exploratory adventure, and I would become the macaroni and like, I don't know, like I just think I want people to have that level of confidence and that level of self-worth in their ability. And I think it starts at school. And I think it starts from teaching things, not hoping that they get learned.
It's totally right. Now, one thing, being confident, we have to teach them. And sometimes we the problem is, how do we teach? And when do we teach emotions? How do we teach emotions?
Totally.
We don't have the tools. Emotion it can be taught anywhere. And it comes a lot from role modeling. Problem is, sometimes many kids, they drag the emotions from parents. They drag emotions up from home.
Yep.
So it's and also for teachers, because sometimes we want to teach confidence, but we are not even confident on how to teach confidence to the students. We don't even know how to, you know what I mean? And it is what it is. You cannot say, okay, let's be happy, and you are crying. It's a way of, and within that, what is confidence? We don't explain to students, and it's something. My point. Another friend, and even that happened with few teachers, but another friend, it was funny this summer because 5 years old, 4 years old kid told me, but what can I do? Because he never respects anybody. And I said, have you asked him what is respect? What's the meaning of respect? I said, never. I said, ask him tomorrow morning. And if he tells you 3 ways of being respectful, then you talk to me, and then I'm gonna create a plan for your kid. We want to work together on making him more respectful.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't even able to say one.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we pretend them to be respectful, to be confident, to be, if we don't tell them the meaning, if we don't give them few ways, if we don't make them feel that way? And usually we have to work on feelings they have had before. Yeah. So if we want to be confident, we have to work on, okay, let's explain what being confident. Remember when you jump on the pool and you were very strong? We had so much fun because we're working on emotions. So it's been proved that our emotion, when we remember something, we change the memory. Mm-hmm. Totally. I mean, we think of whatever, we change it with our state of mind, our mood at that moment, and it is there, but it is not the same that it was, in a way. That's why sometimes when we are sad, we think of sad things, but it is also true that our body feels the same chemics that we felt, even stronger sometimes, that we felt at the moment. So having that part of feeling, if we remind kids, and it comes from communication with parents, when did we don't ask those things to parents. When do you think he felt very, very confident, very sad, very happy? And having those memories in mind, we can remind them, remember the feeling you had here, remember, so that is confident. Why? Because you were, and then we tend to work from that, proper scaffolding, proper, but sometimes we don't even know the meaning of, okay, let's be confident. Okay, I'm confident. We don't even know what the meaning. What's the meaning?
Well, and I have two things I want to speak to with that. One is that there's this like cultural community component that we've been talking about, but we haven't named. So I really want to name it. And then I also want to talk about the word routine. and something that I found out the other day. So just to the first piece, which you just talked about, parents, and I think this is where, you know, I've been working on a project the last few years to start like a learning village here in Toronto that will house within it a school and a learning center for parents and teachers. Because when students and parents and teachers are all learning within the same community, and that learning is being passed into a kind of communal learning space, we will see that children will want to learn more, and parents will be activated in that learning state more and will help their children learn more. Like there'll be like a more symbiotic system all towards learning and growing and developing. And I think that a challenge with schools is that schools are designed to teach children. They're not designed to teach
Yeah,
parents,
totally
and their
agree.
parents are a very large part of this equation. And so
Totally agree.
they're a forgotten piece. And so that, if you want to respond to that in a moment, please do. And then this other thing was, so the other day I was talking to a teacher in a school who was going to run a workshop for roughly like 17-year-olds, and it was about a routine, about how to develop a good routine, and not just a routine in the morning, but a routine in the evening, and kind of just around like bedtime. Waking up at bedtime were struggles for these students. And so I said, something that I like to do, I'm not saying this is the, you know, you should do this every time and it's the best way to run a workshop, but I love when I come to a workshop around something like routine or confidence, as we're talking about, and that I've done the research on the epistemology of the word. Where did the word routine come from? What are alternative ways of viewing this word that might resonate for people in a different way? Because maybe the word routine has lost meaning to them. And now you say you need a routine, and they're like, no, I don't want a routine. I hate routines. Routines suck. And like they get all agitated with routine. But when you look into the meaning of routine in the 1700s, it was about route and pathway and way forward and road. It wasn't about a habitual thing that you do all the time. It was actually about just like momentum moving forward.
Yeah.
And so I offered that to him. We just looked it up and we thought about it. And I just think sometimes it's not actually like we need to give definitions from the dictionary. It's actually allowing people to explain their own understanding of it. Like I used to always say in high school, I used to say cool is code for confidence. So if you want to be cool, be confident. Stop trying to like be cool like other people. Be confident in your weirdness, and you're gonna be super cool. And so if cool is code for confidence, that's a way of looking at it. That's not like me saying that. It's not like that's true. It's not that in the dictionary, and like I don't know if there's any studies to support that. But when I look at it like that, it makes me more confident.
Yeah.
And that's all that matters, you know.
Yeah, I'm gonna answer then about this routine, word connection with traumas, autism, and this. But first, what you mentioned about parents, I think is so important. So our goal is training parents as well. Why?
I know.
And it doesn't really matter if he is neurotypical or autistic. So I really believe parents spend crazy amount of money on therapists that for nothing. They are not very good because they have to transfer skills. So something we struggle with, most of the autistic people, are context, and transfer those skills from one context to another. And they are able to say supercalifragilisticexpialidocious in speech language therapy, and then they get home and they are not able to say even thank you. And then it's just because all those transfer skills. What I'm trying to say here, it's super important we train parents and they get involved. Why? Sometimes parents, I'm not at that, but it's something, Patricio also says one huge guy from Argentina that I love, that, parents tend to do with the kids the same that they have been told. And I sometimes I see my friends and I tell them this, and I said, why do you say that to your kids? I said, I don't know, because I said, think about it. Do you say that because you have been told in that way, but maybe you don't know? And they come to the point and they say, well, you are right. I used to be told these kind of things in this moment. And then it's when you see things, parents, okay, if you do that, I give you this. If you say that, I give you this toy. If you do this, I give you. That's not the way. It will never work. But because we were told that way, we think that is the normal and the good way. And maybe you get something for short time, long time is not working. Never, it will never work. So it is very important that we change that. And this starting point, I think future generations, as there's loads of pedagogies of different environments, different alternative educational ways. So in the future, we might get better. We still need few generations to change that way of thinking. But it's very important that we work with parents, because most of the emotions they come from home, and the way we. And talking about the part you mentioned with routine and everything, it is very common for neurodivergent autistic people, but it happens also with every kind of neurotypical. The relation we have ourselves with the words. Sometimes they say, you are not strong enough, or you are not confident, and then that confidence is very negative word for you. And then you think always that you are not confident, even if you don't know what it is. But every time you have to face a challenge, you are not confident enough, or you are not. And it's very important that we are very careful with the words we use, and the way we use them, and when we use them, and always reinforce positive emotions against negative emotions, and try to minimize negative emotions, especially when we work with autistic people, because we connect words in a way that they are very, we think of images, so whenever we are having a bad moment, whenever every word can become part of our traumatic list of words, so it's very important that we have that in mind, and we make everybody understand how uh, our brain works.
Mhm.
As a parent, I would like to add that, for example, the part you say about the school, it's important that the school is in the same way, as you tell Abraham, because sometimes you as a parent want the school to be more proactive and be more sharing about what is happening inside the school, and it's not always the case. Sometimes the schools also put a barrier about the way they do things. I'm thinking about even about public schools in Mexico. It's not like you can talk a lot with the teacher of your kids many times in the year. Most of the times, maybe every 2 or 3 months, a meeting with all the parents, and there is not this communication that will be great for teaching parents. Sometimes the teacher and the parents don't even know each other like, really well. So
Well, I
that
think that there must be always a barrier, professional barrier, because there are different environments that kids, also children, needs to know where they are at, what is school, what is parents, and what is at home. Emotions are always a bit different in different in the next environments. Now, my point is, with the right pedagogy, with the right system in place, there's not so much that much communication needed per se, or there's not that need, because everybody works on the same path. My point is, parents need to know the whole educational program, what is going to happen from the beginning to the end, so then they are able to carry on at home working in the same way. Let's say that we're talking about universe. Let's say that we're talking. So at the school, everything has to look, taste, touch like universe, but at home as well. And that's the way we're gonna work at home. We're gonna tell them. We're gonna share those feelings. We're gonna say, what are you learning? This YouTube thing. Let's put a video about universe, and then we're gonna create those environments. Now, sometimes schools they also have to manage and decide according to their policies how parents are going to communicate with them, how parents are going to interact in the day-by-day basis. Why? Well, because all those emotions, sometimes you deal with very, very intense or very frustrated or very, parents, and we have to protect the whole environment as well. So relation, and this is what coaching comes along as well. You have to be able to identify all those things, and you have to be able to cut it from the base. One thing is school, one thing is home, and that working together is so important. But also from a school point of view, and as a former leader, there are certain certain ways, and from parents that you have to deal with as well. Basically, because you identify certain emotions that they are not emotions of way of being, that they are not very positive for the environment or a school atmosphere.
agree. So as you see, Quinn, as I told you, we have reached the hour, and it's like
Mhm.
we could keep talking about this, but I want to go to a certain kind of closure and tell me how has been your experience giving these courses to teachers. How schools receive this kind of learning? They see it. It's easy to convince a school to say, "Oh, okay, let's teach coaching to our teachers." And what have you encountered in this mission you have?
I think that we've had more positive feedback than I would have ever imagined. I think I imagined as we started Gradyin that this would work for some people would love it, it wouldn't be right for others. And I would say that almost every single course, it's the best course they've ever taken. It's the the best learning experience for them. And something I love that people say is like it's the most personal professional development that they've ever received, that it was development that treated them like a human and not just an educator. They love that it's a skill set that's applicable to so many aspects of school life and applicable at home. So it's not just like, oh, I can go use this in my classroom, but I can use this with my 2 year old, or I can use this with my husband. And I think like that component of it really gives us the energy to want to keep doing this, because we have yet to meet someone that has said like, I don't understand this, or I don't get why this would work in a school. It just hasn't happened yet. It's always the barriers are around timing, budgets, and just having the ability to focus on it that year. Sometimes there's other competing priorities. And so, great, let's wait until the school is ready for this, because whilst it could just be one person that goes the distance and becomes a certified facilitator and brings it all back to their school, or it's like a whole school initiative, it doesn't necessarily matter the exact starting point, because every school is unique, every person is unique, so every journey is unique. And so what we're trying to do is offer lots of flexibility for educators. Like we're running a coaching for neurodiversity class live online to like literally in 2 or 3 weeks, because we want to raise awareness around that. And it's just a 90-minute class. It's not going to change someone's entire life potentially, but also if you haven't learned coaching skills, or you don't know a lot about using coaching skills with some neurodiverse thinkers, then it could change how you see everything. So I think we love the idea that coaching is for everyone, and we just want to make it accessible for everyone. We want it to feel like something that they can get for their school, or they can get from somewhere, because it it has changed a lot of people's lives.
I couldn't agree more, and I can give testament to that because I have myself. And yes, I see the course just as a tool that you can use in many environments, but most of all, courses that will make you or helps you improve yourself.
Mhm. Yeah.
I think that is the essence of the course, and it might not sound like that, but I was asking something a little bit different. I have no doubt that after the course, everybody will love it. I have no doubt about it. But my thing is, well, in the first contact with institutions,
Mm.
are they open to this different way of doing the things? Do you have any reaction from parents, from teachers at the start? It's not like, oh, this is a new crystal generation thing that is going to tell me blah blah blah. Or what
Okay.
is
Yeah.
the first encounter? How hard is to convince people to do something?
Yeah. Okay. So that, to answer that, is very, very simple, and the range is significant. So I get emails that are literally like, we want to embed a coaching culture. Here are the number of people we want to train. Do you want to do it?
Yeah,
Okay.
amazing.
So
I
like,
want that. We want a lot of that.
I don't have to do anything. Like, I basically have to be like, when do you want us to come in, and look at the diary and like make it work. And then I get meetings where I've been put, connected by another person to someone, and they start off the meeting with like, well, what are you going to sell me on? And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. I'm not selling you on any. In fact, you're selling me on you, because we don't just work with anyone. Like, we're going to work with a school and an educator and a group of educators that are ready for this. So actually, let's talk about you. Let's talk about your school. Let's talk about what's important to you right now. And then let's decide if this is a good match, because I think that there is sometimes resistance to new things. I also think that any educator in 2024 that has watched what has happened to this next generation through social media and access to phones in the classroom and devices in the classroom and the pandemic, any educator that is actually looking at the data that's out there and thinking about the children in their classrooms and isn't thinking maybe a methodology for helping people could be a part of the solution is probably not paying attention to what's going on. That would be my, I don't think right now I need to ever convince schools of this. I more so have to help them figure out when will be the right time to do this. And it might not be this academic year. It might be next year, because this year they're focused on staff development and doing something else like instructional coaching, or they're trying to improve their pedagogy, and they really want to focus on Harkness teaching or inquiry based learning, right? So it's not to say that coaching doesn't fit with that. It's just you can't do everything at the same time. So that's usually the work that I have to do. But no, Oscar, I'd say now I don't have to fight for it anymore, that people actually get it. And quite honestly, if they don't get it, they're probably not trying to knock on my door.
I think that is good news.
It is.
I'm, I'm
Clearly,
glad
I'm
that,
happy.
I'm glad that most people is open to this, to
Yeah.
learn different ways of teaching and learning and understanding that the way we're doing things is not the right way.
Mhm.
Because that's what I feel. So, any other question, my friend, or we can close?
It's okay. We can. I'm happy to
That's
have
great.
you here. Nice conversation.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, please. Before we end, tell about Gradyin, the courses where they can find more about you, everything, tell everything, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I think that if you are interested in, I guess, like learning coaching skills for yourself or learning coaching skills for your organization, go to gradyin.com, Graydin, you see it at the bottom of the screen.com. And I think the first step, we've got an introductory course that's called The Basics. It's 1 hour, it's self-paced. It'll give you a pretty good sense of coaching and what we offer. And then I think you can figure it out from there. Do you want to do a self-paced course next, or do you want to do it live online, or are we, an organization you want to bring into your school to run courses in person? We do travel to other places. We also have roughly 70 certified facilitators all over the world. And I think they're an incredible community that we want people to come into, but also we want to showcase them. We want to empower them. And if you have a certified facilitator in your area, we'd love to see if they could be a partner for you as well.
Amazing. I will say that you are selling yourself too short, because I think it's an amazing experience. It's an amazing opportunity for your company, for your school, for yourself, to learn more about yourself, to learn more how to be better to other people, how to help people get better. It will be one of the better experiences in your life. So if you want to have that, go to Gradyin.
I'll take that one. Do that one.
So, really thankful to have you here. It was a great conversation. We have many topics we could go and explore even more. So, we hope to have you back soon, rather than later, sooner rather than later. And thank you for being yourself and the work you do.
Thank you.
My friend.
Thank you so much for everything. See you soon.